Okay, so dependencies. Let's just go straight to our VS Code and then we'll just do one explanation and details there in VS Code. Okay. First of all, I have to activate our virtual environment, the library box, our library box, and then script, and then activate. And then I have to see into our main folder and then open up our main folder in VS Code. Okay. So dependencies. Well, what exactly is dependencies? Like we said in our previous class, our dependencies are basically functions or classes that our route function is actually relying on. Okay, so basically what that means is that if a request is sent to a specific URL on our server, okay, and that URL is and that and that URL is has have a dependency that the request is first of all sent to that request in that dependency function. And when that function has done processing that request or executing whatever instructions you put in place for it to execute, thereafter it will pass the result of that execution if there is need for it. It will pass that result straight to your route function alongside with the request, and then from there, your route function can take over from there and simply do what send out the response at the end of the at the end of the day. All right. So that's basically what dependency is. Okay, that's basically what dependency is. And we I think we had some examples. Uh, Hold on, let's put it up. All right, so we had some examples and that we had in a previous class. We had some example that we for some reason I don't know. Yes, please. Yeah. Right. So this is from our previous class. We also said that for a function to be considered as a dependency, that function needs to be passed as an argument to the depends function from FastAPI. So basically, this depends here. It's a built-in function from FastAPI. Now it takes in a function or it takes in a class, right? So basically anything that is callable. So that man takes in anything that is callable, which in this case is our function. Now, once we pass that function as an argument to this man, right, FastAPI automatically sees that function as what as a dependency. So as such, if for any reason, if for any reason, if for any reason a request is sent to that particular route that that owns that dependency, right, or that has a dependency, then that request is first of all sent towards to that function, and that function request will process that request and in turn send back that response to the route function itself. What is going on today? For some reason, my PC is misbehaving. That's the problem. This man no one come down. Please hold on, guys. What is wrong? What is wrong with my PC? Basically, I have to be doing everything manually. I can't move this thing up and down. All right. So okay. So and we also look at another type of dependency, which is a global dependency. So basically, if you have a dependency that needs to cut across all your routes in your project, then we simply just fix that dependency in the fast API instance, and that will cut across all your projects, right? Or sorry, all your routes in this particular project, right? So that's basically what dependencies are all about. They are functions that will execute before your route functions. Right, so just with that in mind, there are functions that will execute before your route function. And of course, your dependency can have a dependency, right? So your dependency can also be depending on another function. right? And that function that your dependency is depending on, or is relying on, is a sub dependency, right? It's a sub dependency. Okay, so and this thing can go like that, from one in one chain where one dependency is depending on another dependency, and the other one that is relying on another dependency, and so on and so forth, right? So there is no limit as to which how many dependencies your route can actually rely on. You can have as many as you want, but one or two is recommended, right? One or two is recommended. One dependency and maybe a sub dependency, right? And maybe a sub dependency. All right, and we also said that that these functions, when the moment we pass it as an argument to the depends, right, that this function can also be seen as your route function. So basically, it means that this function, right, can can basically process all parameters that comes alongside with that request. So if a request is sent to a route, right, and that request um came alongside with some parameters, let's say some path or some query or some even request body, right? Then this function have the capacity of taking care of those parameters. Like it can view the parameters, it can do whatever it wants with those parameters before doing what passing that request onto the route function itself for the final results to be sent out to the client. Right. So that's basically what we said, or what we discussed about dependency in our previous class, which I want to believe that there is no question pertaining to that, right? I want to believe that there is no issue pertaining to that, right? Okay, Mr. Gabriel, your hand is up.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Sorry, I wasn't available the last class. So,
Okay.
I my question is because I listened to the last class recording. My question is, why do we need this dependence? Because in which scenario can we use it? Because I don't really actually get the the usefulness of the stress or these things. So, in which scenario can we use this dependency?
All right. Okay. Okay. That's a fantastic question. That's a very fantastic question. Okay. So we are gonna see one of its core uses in this class. All right. But then there are situations, right? And there are situations that let's assume that. Oh, please hold on, guys. Just hold on, guys. Please let me. So, guys, please, you may likely hear some background sounds on my end. For some reason, I think there's some guys that are working outside there. It's beyond my control, right? It's beyond my control, please. All right, so let's go back and let. All right. So okay. So dependency is it's useful in situations where you need to handle a certain functionality before a request is passed to your actual route function itself. A typical example is let's let a typical example is a secured route. Okay, let's take for instance. Okay, we have a route that let's say we have a route. Okay, that let's say, assuming we have a route like this, a route that is a dashboard route, assuming. Okay, and basically, okay, what this route would do is to just display user information, right? So I'll say something like that, like return in details, right? In details, info, okay, and this will be like let's say some user information, right? Information. This is basically what this route is doing, right? So that means um please, I believe that sound is not that loud enough. That is conflicting. All right. So let's assume that that this route, okay, is showing users information. So it means that in order for you to view this information, a particular user needs to be authenticated, or needs to sign in, right? Or needs to have logged in, right? So it's similar to like our social media account. Okay, some social media platforms you can actually view your information if you're not if you're not logged in, right? So there are certain pages that you cannot view unless you are logged in, right? Now let's bring that same situation here to FastAPI. Now, assuming that this route is for people that are logged in, so depending on who is logging in, you can know what you can view um, your own personal information, right? Now, in order now we know about that APIs, all right, or route is being interacted via is being interacted with via what via request. So it means that if I intend to see my information, right, I need to somehow send a request to that route. Okay. And then Fast API has a means of what of checking if that request that is coming is from a logged in user, right? So now if not, there will be a problem because if that request comes in directly to this route and that user is not logged in, right? This will break your server, right? Because we are trying to fetch information about a user that we do not know anything about. So in that situation, instead of that request coming directly to this route, we do what we pass in a dependency where that request goes to that function first. And basically, what that function will check is if this user what is actually a logged in user, right? Then if it is, then from there we can just allow that particular request to do what to go through to this main route function, and from there we can know what we can retrieve that user information. That way, uh, that way that request, right, it doesn't come directly to this function, and that way we don't have a situation of trying to fetch an information of a user that has not yet been logged in. All right. So similar situation or similar cases follow this same method, right? Where we need to process something first, right? And to be sure of that of whatever we are doing before finally letting that request straight to our route function. So that's basically the usefulness of dependencies. And it's personally it I would say it's developer's choice, but it's very useful. It's very useful, and the main reason why I brought it back up in the curriculum is because the way Fast API will process user authentication, it uses dependency. So I wanted to bring up that dependency first, so that we know how it works, right? So that when we get to security, you can basically see why that dependency makes a lot of sense, right? Makes a lot of sense. But in conclusion, right, you want to actually use dependencies to process certain things first, right? Certain necessary things before before a route or before the request itself is being sent to a route function, right? So that's basically the use cases, right? And there's more of them, right? There is more of them, but that's just the few that could actually live, live with us. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay, so it's safe to say that it's kind of a storage code. We use it to store data.
No, actually, we don't use it to store data, but you can use it to at least store information. It's basically, I would say it's a means of should I use the word pre-processing, right? So we pre-process a particular request before that request is passed to the actual point where it should be processed and processed properly with the response being sent out. Okay, if that makes sense. All right. So though you could use it for storage if you want to actually use it to store things before a request is sent through to a route. It's up to you. But basically, the whole point is that once the request comes, all right, once the request comes, it we pre-process this stuff. All right, we kind of handle, should I say, pre-process. I'll go with pre-process this stuff, and then at some point we just send out that request, send the request So it appropriate routes to its appropriate uh appropriate route for more processing. And then finally do what we send out this request. Send out response. Right. So basically that is that. And so basically that is or that is what I would want to I think that this explanation here actually makes a lot of sense, right? So the request doesn't just go straight to where it should be processed. Yeah, so there is a means of processing first. All right, depending on what we intend to do, right? It depends on what we intend to actually pre-process for, right? So it's developer's choice, like I said, it's developer's choice. Is that, does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Uh, we could also use it for configuration. Okay, if assuming 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 that you're supposed to configure certain things for every request that comes, right? Assuming you're supposed to configure certain things before a particular request comes in. Then let's assume that okay, let's look at another assumption, right? Let's look at another assumption. So let's assume that let's assume that in this your route function, okay, you have a certain variable that is hidden in scope. What do I mean? You have an environment variable. Assuming you have an environment variable. If we've heard of environment variable before, right? They are basically sensitive information that is hidden, right? So basically, when you share your script with someone, a person doesn't really see that value, but then is what the person sees is the variable that references that value, right? That's hidden somewhere, right? It could be in another file, right? Most basically it's always like in .env file, right? So now that file you don't share that file with people. You simply just share your source code, right? Right? You simply just share your source code. And what the person may see maybe something like let's say something like the let's say key equals to I'm just assuming, right? So env dot key, right? So the person might say something like this. So env dot key is the actual value in the virtual environment, okay, in the virtual environment itself. And let's assume that once a request comes in, that you somehow want to actually fetch this key and then do some certain configuration first before that request comes to the route to the route itself. Okay, so at that point you want to do what you want to load this configuration or this loading of key alongside with that configuration away at dependency level, and then finally then you can pass that request down to the route function itself. So there are so many instances that you can use these things, but like I said earlier, it's basically developer's choice, right? Some people choose, or some people will want to basically do everything in their route function, right? Which in most cases makes your route function extremely long, or should I say unnecessarily long. Okay, so some people have a separate file called the core dependencies. So they just put those things that can be processed at dependency level at that file, and they just extract the important information and use it in their route function, which makes it shorter, right, and more concise. So it basically, should I say, it's more like a programming design, right? So if putting everything in your route function makes a lot of sense to you as a developer, then please by all means put everything in the route function, right? But then the whole point, that's like I said, the whole point of bringing that dependency concept is that there is a concept in FastAPI that must obey dependency, right? So, but it doesn't mean that we can actually use that same concept for our own needs. We can, right? we can. So this was me showing us how we can actually use that concept for our own needs. But then when we get to security, it is a must that certain security concepts must be done at dependency level, right? Must be done at dependency level. So it's choice, right? It's choice. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. Any other question? Any other question? Any other question? Okay. Some people even use the dependency for its parameter validation and transformation, right? So depending on your project, right? Some people choose to collect those parameters at depend like your query, your path, and all the parameters. They choose to collect it at dependency level, do whatever needs to be done with those value, and then just send the value like send the process version of those value to your route function, which makes your route function a little bit neat and are more simpler and more shorter, right? So instead of of collecting everything in the route function, cleaning up those parameters and then doing whatever was meant to be done with them in the function itself. So developers they choose to do it at dependency level, right? And then they just make their route function very short and very simple. I don't know if that makes sense too. Right. So, well, some other people too also do some other people too also choose to do performance optimization, right? At dependency. So if, for a request that comes in, they try to optimize it and then do whatever needs to be done and then pass it to the route and then send out. So it's basically choice, right? It's basically choice. It's basically choice, right? But just keep in mind that you can use it, you can choose not to use it. But then there are some concepts in FastAPI that you must use it, right? Those concepts include things like sessions, like database sessions, security, I think one other and one other concept like that, right? So those are the concepts that must follow dependency means of using them, right? They must follow dependency method. If not, fast API, you cannot really work on them effectively or do what needs to be done with them. Okay, but then when it gets to you as the developer, you can choose to, right? If it makes it comfortable with you, you can choose to to also employ such concepts in your own custom code, which in this case, let's say your parameter pre-processing, right, and stuff like that. Okay. All right. Any other question? Any other question? All right. So there, in the absence of any other question, let's just proceed into security. Okay. So we'll come back to this dashboard again because we still use that dashboard in view route rather and do some explanation. All right. So let's go back again and let's see what's happening so far. So far, if you look at all our source code that we've been writing from day one, okay, so I think from parameters, okay, from main to parameters to response model to all the stuff. And they are basically what? They are basically open, right? Or should I say they are basically unsecured. So what I mean by what do I mean by unsecured? It means that they are publicly accessible, right? Or they do not require any form of authentication. It means anyone across the globe can just send a request there and then you could just work with it, right? So but then there are situations where you are building a software or a backend for a project where authentication is required for a certain view or for a certain route to want to be accessed, right? So in that situation, how do we implement that in Fast API? So that's basically what we want to look at in today's class. And like I also said, these concepts are very simple, right? So the whole concept of security it's very simple and very straightforward. Okay, so Fast API, right, have a built-in class, or they have a built, or should I say, they have built-in classes that handle security, or that can make your route towards to require authentication. Meaning that if you use these classes as dependencies in your route, it automatically makes that route to be secure. Meaning that if someone tries to send a request to that route, Fast API will require a form of authentication or thereabout. Okay, and that is what we want to implement in this class. So that one of that class is is a class called OAuth2 password bearer. It's a very long name, right? So, but basically, it's a class that is available in FastAPI.security. So it's not available here in our usual places where we like to import things from. So it's available in FastAPI.security. So I would go to FastAPI from FastAPI, right? .security, right? From FastAPI.security, you can import O right? So OAuth password bearer. Okay, so this is a class that we can use, right? Among all other classes, this is one of them, OAuth password bearer, and which is what we will use um for this class for security, right? So OAuth password bearer is a class that if you use them in your route, it automatically makes that route to be secure. It means that so when someone tries to make a request to that route, FastAPI will automatically ask you to do what a form of identification, which for this class, the form of identification for this particular class is a bearer token. If you've heard of a token called bearer token, so it means that you need to provide a token that starts with bearer and some string of what of and some strings of token like that, right? So that's basically for this particular class, that is its form of what of identification or verification. Okay, so let's see how we can implement this in FastAPI. All right, so after importing this class and that we have up there, what you need to also do again is to create the instance of that class, right? Is to create the instance, because it's the instance of that class that we need to do what to pass to each of the routes that we intend to make it what secure, right? So immediately after our first API, yeah, I could just come here and just I could call this maybe authentication, right? So this is authentication class. So this is the variable that we will use to make sure that every route is what is secured, right? So this variable says that we need to make the instance of that class. So OAuth to password bearer, right? And then you do what we invoke this man. All right. But then if you look at what we have here, this hint, right? This hint that we have here, that we have one required parameter called token URL. So now this man here needs that parameter called token URL. So token URL. So if you come here and then token URL is a string, right? So it's a string, right? So it needs to be a string. So it's a string of what exactly you may want to ask. So token URL is a string that takes in the path in which someone can do what can get authenticated. So basically the whole idea is that since sorry, this name is just too long. So since OAuth to password bearer, right, is meant to make a particular a particular route to be secured, or to force that route to ask for a form of what of identification. So it also expects that when you are doing that, you need to also provide it with a URL in which someone who is not actually secured can actually go to that particular URL and get some form of what of authentication. Am I making sense? Please, is that making sense? Please let it not be that I'm just singing and
Yes,
it doesn't
sir.
make sense. All right. So okay. So here we can come back here and do what and then we can provide that URL, or right, that URL. So if I come here and then I could just come here and then I can just say token, right? Token. So now basically what does that mean? It means that if you're not authenticated for any reason, that you're not authenticated, that you need to go to a URL called token. So token, in a sense, that token is the value that comes after the domain. So basically, I'm sorry, I'm trying to type something about sense. Right. So basically, what that means is this. Right. So go to like the HTTP. Right. In this case, we are using our local host. Right. So something 127. Basically, is that port number there is localhost. Right. Basically, that's what it means. Go to localhost and then slash token. Okay, that's basically what this token here means, right? So if I come here and say maybe slash login, right? So here in our means token slash login, right? So basically everything that whatever you put here, right? It's basically the part that follows immediately after the domain name, right? So, but I will stick with just login. So the difference is that we don't have to start with slash, right? Uh, unlike our normal means of of giving the parameters in when creating route, right? Remember all our parameters, sorry, all our routes, it start with what? It start with forward slash, right? And an optional closing slash. Yeah. So that front one there is optional, but then every other route must start with what? It must start with forward slash. But in the case of this password bearer, we don't need to start with this forward slash. Just simply just put the URL itself and leave the slash, right? So that's basically what is happening there, right? That's basically what is happening there. So in this case here, this is basically what we mean that this is where you want this is where a user needs to go to and get authenticated. That is if you're not actually authenticated, right? Okay, so now that we have that now let's go ahead and make a particular route to what to be secured. Okay, so let's come back to this our route here again. And this our route here is a dashboard route. I'll just move this man for now, and I'll take this man up there, and I'll paste this man down here. All right. Okay, so here is basically what this will just be like dashboard. So this is where some people will have to go to get what's their information. Okay, and so it shows this. Now, how do I now make this man to be secure? So before now, this man now is unsecure. So it means that if I should make a request down there, it should go without without even requiring any form of authentication. So, but then let's go ahead and let's test that out first. Then we come back and make it secure. So UVCon, and the file name here is one. The file name here is dep and sec. That's the dependency and security, right? Dep underscore sec. So dep underscore sec colon app, right? What is that here? Okay. All right, so that is loading. So okay, we have our server up and running. All right, so let's go ahead and let's send a request to wait to let's send a request to our dashboard, right? To our dashboard, okay, and you can see that it's of course that request should go through successfully. Okay, that request should go through successfully. Please hold on. Okay. All right, so let's paste this man down here, and then let's go to dashboard. Okay, dashboard. Right, so we have user information, right, and which is wonderful, right? Which is wonderful, and every other route will do what will work as expected or will work the same, right? But in this situation here, we want this particular route to be secured. Why do we want it to be secure? Because the user information here is user specific. Well, what do I mean by user specific? It means that it depends on whoever is logging in, right? So if let's say if Osato has logged in, right, and has sent a request to dashboard, I should see his information, right? And let's say another person is logged in and then also sending his own request to the same dashboard. I should see his own information, right, and not like a general information, right? So in that situation, a means of identity is being required. So it means that this route have to be secured, right? This route here have to be secured. Now, how do we make this security work? So, like I said, security works with dependency. It means that this class has to be passed as a dependency to whichever route that you want to make it secure, right? So if I come here now and then I come to this route and say I want this route to be secure, here I'll just say token equals to token equals to, I'll tell you where I'm naming this token. It is equals to remember our class is what is auth, right? So but if I do auth, then that will not be a dependency, right? So that means I have to use depends, right? And then in bracket pass auth as an argument to the depends function from FastAPI. All right, and with that route has been secured. It's just that simple, right? Like I said, this concept is very simple. Right now, if I should go back again and try to make this request, so let me refresh my server so that it picks that changes. Right, so refresh my server and let's go back again. Let's go back again, and then let's send this request one more time. All right, and now you see that you said that not authenticated. The detail there means not authenticated. So it means that route is no longer free or is no longer public. That one has to somehow be authenticated in order to do what? In order to view that route. And it's that simple. And it's that simple. But then the question now is how do we or how does this class work, right? Now, how does that class now know that 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 particular request that was sent by an unsecured or should I say unauthenticated individual. So let me explain to you how that class works. Right now, the way this class works is this, right? Once we pass this class as a dependency to a route, it means that when a request is being sent, that request comes to this class first, right? And then if everything goes fine, from there it moves from that class to your route function. So what happens when that request comes to this class first? What happens is that this class will do what will check the request, the header section of that request. Now remember, I said that our request comes in section, right? There's a body, there's a header, right, and there's the request line, right? If you remember when I made that explanation in I think back then in one of our classes, that said that our request comes in three sections, right? The request line, the header section, and the body and the optional body. So this header and body section is optional, right? But then the moment we make a particular route to be secured, it means that whatever request is coming in needs to have some things in the header section. All right. So this class here will do what? We'll check the header section of that request. And what it's looking for is looking for a particular key called authorization. Authorization, right? And because the values in the header section come in pair, the key and value. Now that's basically how every request header section and the values there. That's basically how they're structured. All the values in the header section they come in pairs, the key and the value. So in this case, this class is specifically is looking for a key called authorization, right? And the key must have a value that start with bearer, right? That starts with bearer, right? Followed by some random string, right? So now if this is not available, then automatically this class assumes that request that was sent by by an unauthenticated human, right? So as such, that you cannot view that route unless you are authenticated, right? So that means in order to view that route, we have to somehow go back to our request section, right? Sorry, our header section, and provide a key called authorization and a value that start with bearer followed by some random string. That is all what it takes for this man to know that you are authenticated, right? Okay, so now let's go back and let's see how we can fix that. So far, remember, our browser does not really give us much room to view some request sections, right? So in that case, we somehow need to bring back Postman. So let's go and bring back Postman, right? Let's bring Postman because Postman gives us room where we can add some things to our request section, right? Sorry, to our request itself, like the header section and the rest of them. Okay, so let's hold on where Postman is coming up. So any questions so far pertaining to O2 password, O2 password bearer? It's a very long name and it tends to always confuse people. All right. So one more thing again is that you may be wondering that you were somehow expecting that since someone is not authenticated, right, that this man will redirect you to this URL here. No, it's not. This thing here is specifically meant for uh, documentation. So it means that it shows on the documentation that this is where you can go and get authenticated, right? So it has nothing to do with functionality, right? The whole functionality happens in this man in the class itself, but while this token URL here is specifically meant for what? Is specifically meant for for documentation, right? It's specifically meant for documentation. So if you go to documentation, then you will see where it says this is where this is the URL that you will go and you get you get a token or you get authenticated, right? And you get authenticated. So let's go back and let's see if our postman have finished loading up. In the meantime, if there's question, please do well to ask. Okay. All right. Let's see. Postman. Right, so our postman is up and running. Okay, so let's go back and let's test this route. Okay, so I'll copy this URL from our browser and let's go come back here and let's test on postman. Right, so everything still remains the same. We are not still authenticated yet. So if I come here and I'll paste this man, and remember this man is a get request. So it takes get request. Go back, it takes a get request, right? This man takes get request. Right, there it is. No, yeah, there it is. For some reason, my PC is misbehaving. All right, so let's go back again. Let's send a request and let's see how it goes. Okay, so if I send this request now, we should have same thing. So I have same thing saying what unauthorized. So you can see from our listing there we have unauthorized means that this request is unauthenticated, right? So that means that we cannot view it because of that class. Right? So we cannot view it because of that class. So like I said, this class will do what? It checks the header section of that request and then look for a key called authorization and then make sure that the value start with what we bearer followed by what's on random string. So let's go and fix that up and let's see if that will grant us access to that man. So the good thing is that you can see some sections here right down here. So if I click on header here, right, I can add a so this is a thing that so these are like the basic things that Postman adds to your request by default, right? So it's optional, right? So these are the basic things that Postman adds to every request that you make via Postman. This thing is being appended to the header section of that request. So you have the host, the user agents, they accept encoding and the connection. So you can leave them as they are, but just simply come here and add your own, which in this case, our own here is what is authorization. So you need to add authorization. Right, so there it is. Authorization. Authorization. Right? And then our value, like I said, our value somehow needs to start with what it needs to start with a token with a value that starts with bearer, right? That starts with bearer. So let's go and let's get that up and running. Let's see. So I come here and start bearer, right? I think that's how bearer is spelled. Yeah, bearer and then any random token, right? Any random stuff, right? So then now that we have that available or appended in our header section of this request, let's try and send this request one more time. If I send this request again one more time, so you see now what that request was now sent successfully. Now, because we now in that class now assume now that you are now authenticated. So as such, that request was sent through successfully, right? That request was sent through successfully. Question before we proceed. Question before we proceed. Question before we proceed. All right, so the silence means there is no question that we understand the concept fully. All right, now let's proceed. Right, let's proceed. Okay. Uh, so you guys didn't hear me, Abby. So you guys can hear me, right?
Yes, sir. Can hear you.
All right, all right, all right. Okay, just to be sure. All right, so let's proceed. Okay, now you'll be wondering, right? That so you may want to ask, does that mean that any user can just put any random string there and it works? Well, the question is no. Any user cannot just put any random string there and it should work. By default, that should not work, right? By default, that should not work. Okay, so we should not have a situation where someone just puts any random string there and then get authenticated, right? Oh, of course, that would be how should I call it? It and that would be one of the biggest bugs that your platform would ever have, because basically anyone can just put any random string there and do what and get authenticated. All right, so let's go and let's see how we can do how we can create those string, right? Those random strings so that someone doesn't just do what just put any random string there. So let's see that whatever string is being included there is a string that we from the server has done what has given out to a particular user, right? To a particular user. Okay, so let's go back and let's see that. let's go back and let's see that. Okay. What I want to do now is to create a URL where that token, because the whole point of this login here, remember in Fast API, or what makes an API is that it cannot really remember what happened in the previous request. That's what APIs are stateless, meaning that it cannot remember its previous request. So because it cannot remember its previous request, we have to find a means of making sure that someone stays authenticated. Because if not that, when someone actually log in, right? When someone actually log in, then the moment you send another request after being logged in, the server automatically do what? It automatically forgets that such user has logged in, right? So that means we have to find a means of making sure that once someone actually log in, we can still remember that person has done what has logged in. So in API, what they usually do is to give out a token. So that token is what we simply use in your header section. So it means for each time you do what you want to send a request as a login user, you do what simply add this token to your header section, and what we could remember that you've logged in, right? So that's basically how I want to do how I want to go about that login functionality. Okay, so but then the client doesn't really need to worry about how to put the token in the header. That is the job of the front end developers, right? They have a means of saving this token in the client device, right? That is why most times if you are logged in a platform and you go to your browser and you clear your cache, your browser cache, automatically someone you get logged out. Now the reason for that is that there are some platform who has a back-end server separately from their front-end server. All right. So now when you were logged in, the back-end server sent a token, and the front-end guy saved that token in your phone in that browser cage, right? So that when you're trying to make a request again, they automatically append that token to your request, so that that way you keep should I say you keep staying logged in, right? So until that token eventually expires. Apart from that, each time you make a request, they will always tell you that you're not authenticated, because that is how servers or that is how APIs are meant to be and to behave, right? That's how APIs are meant to actually behave. So let's go back and let's create this URL for getting this token. So I'll come down here and I'll create another URL for getting token, right? For getting token, right? And I'll call this URL login. Now, why do I need to call this login? It's because in the documentation we have that one that the login is where someone can go to and get this token. So as such, we have to do what create that URL so that whoever is using this endpoint isn't lost or isn't confused on where to get their token. Okay. So here I would just say, so here this particular route does not need to be what to and it doesn't require authentication, right? So it should not require authentication. So and then we take that out, and then what this route will require would be some form of logging in. So it means that we will expect you to do what to submit your email and password, assuming that you are using email and password for logging in, right? I want to assume. So I will simply come up here, right? I'll create a class, right? And I'll call this class user login class, right? And it inherit from base class. So we are already familiar with this one, base model. Right? So it seems that we don't have base model. So from Pydantic. So from Pydantic, we need to import base model. Right? And then come down here. And we will put the column there, and then we want to have email, which should be email email string. And reason we have to also go and import email string, right, for email verification, right? So email string there, and we have password, right? We have password string. Okay. All right, and we were expecting this detail in this login route here, right? In this login route here, detail here, and this should be what a type of what user login. So this tells us that this information is coming in via the request body, right? So at that point, we could just maybe at this point we could just check if email is already in our data, because we don't want to actually we don't want to actually log in someone who never had account with us in the first place, right? It will be insane to log in someone that never existed in your database. So here we check if email already exists in our database, right? In DB. So I will not write out this code, right? But then just keep it in mind that we would always do this, right? But then maybe in our future class, when we get to databases, we come back and then we do some changes to this code itself, right? We will do some changes to the code itself. Okay, so let's proceed again. Okay, so now after we've done this, now what we want to do now is to generate a token for that user, right? So here I could just say token, right? Token, I could just say, I'll just give some random string for now, right? And then the user that owns this token is, I'll just give the email, right? The email that owns that token is going to be what, the detail dot email. So I want to believe that we are already familiar with all this, okay? And then at the end of it all, I simply just want to do what, to return these things. So at this point in time, I'm not returning the user info. I want to return token, right? And then the token here is going to be the token that we've generated so far, right? And I want to return the email. No, the email as I want to return the user, the user that owns this token, which in this case is going to be what, email, and the type, so that the different end guys would know, and what is a bearer token, right? So that you know that when using this token, you have to put bearer in front, right? So type is bearer. Okay, you can say token type, right? Token underscore type, or token type anyhow, right? I'll just say token type underscore. Okay, so that is basically what we want to do. Okay, so that we send your login details. Say that's your email and password, right? And then we verify that email is already in our database. If it's there, we simply generate this token, and then we send back your email alongside with the type of bearer, okay, to the front end guys, and then the front end guys will know how to save this token on your phone, so that when you make another request to another endpoint, you can simply just tell who is making that particular request. Okay, so let's go back and let's continue. All right, so let's come back again and let's test this. Let's refresh our server. Let's go and get this man. Right. So okay. So one more thing again that I want to do is that remember, when sending a logged in token here, right? I want to get that token. So remember, if I should, and one thing again that this man does is that okay. So remember, this O2 password bearer, right? He checks the header section, right? If there is a key called authorization and there is a token that starts with bearer as a random string, right? Now, if it's there, right? It will do what? It will simply just return that token. So what do I mean? I mean that if I come back here again and that token is there, right? I can simply get that token from this variable called token. Remember, so that was why I used token there, because I'm expecting that if that token is there in that section, in that header section, it should be returned here. So I should be able to get it here. So at this point, I could check if token, right? I could check if token is equals to what, to this one that we've created here, right? We've created here, right? And we could just do some things, right? We could just maybe just print, maybe we could just return at this point. We could just return something, right? Okay, we return this man, right? Come here, and here I would say info. The info here is basically going to be from there. I could just use it get this maybe let's just do this something like this. From here, I could just use that token and filter, right, and get the user that owns that token. And from there, I can send whatever information needs to be sent, right? And from there, I can send that user information. Then else I could just raise an HTTP exception. The status code of let's say status code. I think let me show. I think so. Let's bring this man first up. HTTP exception that takes in, where are you? This man takes in first HTTP exception status code of 404 and then detail of invalid token. Right. Okay, so let's go back and let's proceed. Okay, so now we have that available. Let's just go ahead and just test this out, right? But we'll come back and I will make some changes, right? But I want you to get how the whole flow works, right? Before you come back and make those changes. So I want you to get how the whole flow works. Okay, so let's go back again and let's test. So if I try to go back again and send this request, I should have a problem because I'm not sending a random token. Right, so I say, so you see we have invalid token, right? So now we are beginning to see how we can control what token is being sent, right? So that someone cannot just send any random token to our server, right? And expect to be authenticated or expect to bypass, or expect to actually bypass the authentication, right? The authentication process. Okay, so let's go back again and let's continue. All right. But now that we have a wrong token, so it means that we have to actually go and do what and log in. So let's go and log in. So I'll go to login.url, copy this man, and I'll create another URL here. And I'll paste this man, and this should be /login. Right, and this is a post. And this man takes in this body section, takes in the raw part. Right, so you can say that the body can come in different forms. Can come in JSON form, which is the raw. Can come in form data, right? So which is like the HTML that we did before, right? So we can just put the key and the value. You can come in the other form and so on and so forth, right? But in this case, we want to send in as JSON form, right? As JSON as raw data, right? So here we are expecting what the email. Okay. All right. I'll just do that. Okay. And we're also expecting the password. I'll just put that random password, right? Okay, so let's see. Now, if we send this request now, we should now have a token, right? So if I send this, it says method not allowed. Let's go back and let's check that our login is accepting post and not get, please. All right, so please, this should be post. All right, so go back again and let's refresh our server. And let's make this request one more time. And boom, we have a token. So the token here is this man here, and the bearer type. So it means that the front end guys will do was we now save this token on their end. So it means that for each request that needs to access a secure route, you simply apply this token in your header section, right? And then send that request. So I'll replace this man there, and then send this request one more time, and I can do one, and I can start accessing some information. Does that make sense? Do we understand that flow before we go back and start making some changes again? Yeah. Do we understand the flow? Okay, the control C. If you do control C, your server should just stop and then you can bring it back up. Just do control C. You should end the server and bring it back up. All right. Is there a question? Is there a question before we go back and we proceed? Is there a question? Question. All right, there is no question. Okay, that's fantastic. Now let's go back and let's see a more appropriate way of doing this, man. Right, a more appropriate way of doing this, man. Because so far so far, if you look at what we are doing, it's complicated. If you ask me, right, it's difficult because one is that okay? Someone has a question. Uh, Show my hand is up. Choma.
Yeah, although I don't know, I might be wrong with my question because I've not watched the last class, but is the app like, because I'm seeing a global dependency in that fast API instance. So
Okay.
like, is that security, like the auth and the rest, is it depending on that global dependency there, or can we take it out?
All right. Okay. 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 So the thing is that the authentication, right, is not depending on this global dependency, but then every route that lives in this project is depending on this global dependency, right? So it means that both dependencies, right, are executing for that dashboard route. Remember, if I open my if I open my command prompt, then you will see something like yeah, hello from sub, hello from depth. Now that execution is from where? It's from these people, right? It's from this man, right? It's from them, right? So this man also get triggered, but at the same time, this other man too also get triggered, right? So it means that if you come down to this route, that this route is depending on that auth dependency, and also depending on where on the global dependency. So the two of them is working effectively on that route, right? So, but then the thing is that the global one will execute first before even getting to the one that is route specific. Because this one here is what is route specific, right? So that global one now will execute first before getting to the route specific dependency. Am I making sense?
Yeah, sure. But is it possible to have like an auth security, like everything we're doing without a global dependency, or is it a must that we must have a global?
Okay, if we can have an auth dependency, or like sorry, I think I lost the question. All right, so is the question, is it a must that we must have a global dependency in order for the auth dependency to work?
Yes, yes, that's my question.
Oh, okay, okay. No, please, it's not a must. You can take this off. So this was in a previous class where we were just demonstrating that there is a means of passing dependency across all your route, right? So, but it's not a must. So if you take it out, it will still work, right? If you take this man out, your auth will still work. So let's refresh this server and let's just execute again. And let's go to to postman again, and let's put in some wrong digit there, and let's send again. So you see, it still works, right? It still works. So that auth there, that global one there was just for demonstrating that there is a means of passing a dependency that cut across all your routes in your product. Make sense?
Yeah, sure, makes sense.
All right. Okay. Any other question? Any other question before we proceed? Any other question? Okay. All right, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that as soon as I can. Sorry about that. Sorry about that delay. I'm not sure that I looked at previous tasks. Sorry. All right. Any other issues? Any other issues pertaining to dependencies? Dependency. All right. The silence means no other question. All right. Now let's go back again and let's look at what we've done so far again one more time. Okay. So now if you look at what we've done here, right? We are doing this in a more difficult way, in a sense that that it means that if I generate a token like this, right, I have to somehow save that token in my database, right? So it means that for each user that logs in, I have to save that token so that I can know that token was being issued by us, right? I don't know if you're getting the point. For each token that we have here, I have to somehow save it either in my database, anyhow, but I have to do what save it, right? So this one here is just some random stuff that I just did here and assign it to a variable. But in real sense, this token has to be saved in database, right? Each time someone logs in, I have to save this token. Now that way I can do what I can tell if that token is from us or not from our server, right? But that is way too difficult because we are looking for how to manage space in the database, and we are saving token, right? Which doesn't really make sense. So, due to developments in the web world, there's a thing that JWT came into the picture. Please, I don't know what's on my PC. So, JWT came into the picture. There's a token called JWT. If you heard of it before, JWT. So it stands for JSON Web Token, right? Now, this token has a means of what of securing something, or of generating some random string, and still remembering that you were the one that generated that random string without you saving that string. I don't know if that makes sense. So with JWT, right, I can do what I can generate a random token, right, a token, right, without saving this token to database, right, and I can still remember if I was if our server generated that token. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Well, so that's basically the whole point of JWT, right? It's a third party model, right? That we can use in generating a token, and then we can somehow remember whichever token that we generated. Now, how do we remember this? Is because when generating this token, you somehow need to provide what we call a secret key, right? A secret key, right? So as far as you still remember your secret key, right, you can you can still remember every token that you generated with that secret key. Right? So that is how JWT actually works, right? That's how please forgive every typo, please. So that's basically how JWT actually works. Okay. Now let's bring in the JWT into our source code, and then maybe we can just create a file and just play around with it and see how it works, right? So we create a file and just play around with it and see how this man works. Okay, so let's go back and let's see that. So first of all, we need to bring in JWT for token creation. So that means every random token that we want to create, we don't want to manually do it. You want to somehow let JWT to do what, to handle it for us. Okay, so I'll comment on that man out. And let's bring in JWT. So to use JWT, first of all, you need to have it available. Basically, have it installed, right? So remember, your server, or sorry, your library box needs to stay active, because I want this man to be installed in that box and not on my where my Python is being installed, right? I don't want that to be installed alongside that directory. I want it to be installed in this box here, right? This small folder, so that I can simply delete it out if I see need to do what, to delete it out without necessarily deleting my Python interpreter out. Okay, so please make sure that when installing this man, that this man is active. Please, if not active, please go ahead and make it active, right? So let's go back and let's install. Right, so pip install. Remember, pip is used for all dependency installation or all third-party installation, right? So pip install is the command. Okay, pip install. And what we want to install is what is PyJWT, right? So that will install that model, and with that model we can use and do what, and generate tokens, and not just generate any token, right? We generate and still remember whatever we generated. That's the beauty of JWT. Right, so that has successfully installed. Right, now let's go ahead and let's do what, and let's have this man let's go ahead and let's have this man in practice, right? Let's see how this man can be used. All right, so let's go back and let's see where we can use it. So it's still in this same file that we use in explaining a generator function, basically a function with the yield keyword. We are going to also use this and do what, and practice JWT. All right, so and then from there we can just move it and go back to our source code and just put it there. All right, so JWT, how does it actually work? So like I said, JWT stands for what? JSON Web Token, right? And basically it has two major functions. they encode and they decode, right? So the thing is that the beautiful thing about JWT is that it doesn't just generate random token, right? There are things that can be stored in them, right? There are things that can be stored in them. So basically, you can store basically you can store some information in it, right? And then it will encode that information and then into what, into some random token, and then somehow you can somehow right this and not somehow sorry, and then you can proceed and use the decode function and unbundle it and get whatever information that you store there, and which is actually vital for our program. Because if you look at what we have here, if you go back to dep and sec, we want this token to somehow include the user that owns the token, so that way, once we unbundle it, we know who owns that token, right? We know who owns that particular token. So that is it. That is just the beautiful thing about it. So let's see. Let's see what that we can use. That this man needs to work with. Right. So first of all, there are some certain things that you should know about JWT is that when encoding, there are some things that is required. So there are some things that is required. One of them is the payload. So there's header, right? There's header. There is a payload, or there is payload. There is a algorithm, I think. Yeah, there is expiration. So basically what we have is expiration, exp. But what is my PC is giving me here? What is wrong with this PC? Right, and what is this one? Oh, I want to see something. If I type, because I'll come here now. If I move, I think we just shift go back. Please hold on, please. Okay, it's moving now. Hold on, guys. Right, I think it's moving now. All right. Okay. So what is happening now? All right. Please. I don't know what's happening, but today that's not the network. It's not busy. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's see how JWT works, right? Let's go ahead and let's see how JWT works. Let's go and see how JWT works, and from there we could just proceed to. You guys say it's still behaving like. Right. So like I said, JWT is basically what is wrong with this man? JWT is basically a JSON web token, like I said, and it mostly consists of three things, right? The header, right? The header consists of the header. It consists of the payload, right? So the payload here is basically is usually a dictionary, right? A dictionary, right? So it contains things like the data that you want to encrypt or encode in this token, right? And then things like let's say the username, the user ID, and all. So basically any information that you intend to hide within this token stays in the payload, right? And this payload is usually a dictionary. Same thing with the header too. It's mostly dictionary as well, right? And then finally we now have the signature. So the signature is more like your secret key, right? So what you use in encrypting this particular, or in generating this particular token. So that's basically the structure of how JWT is. Okay, so let's see how this works. So first of all, we have to actually have it installed. So like I said, we have to have it installed, which we already did. And then finally, we can do what? We can simply just import it and start using it. Okay, so I'll import. So I'll say import JWT. JWT. Ah, Jesus, sorry. Ah, why is this thing like skipping? I see my keyboard wants to have issues. All right, so we import JWT, right? And then from here, we could just start encoding and decoding. So the two major function that JWT has is what is JWT.encode, JWT.encode, and we have JWT dot this thing is going to be a problem. And JWT dot decode, JWT dot decode. All right. So these are the two functions, and you could see that and you can see the things that this man takes. Oh God. They have external cable. They have external cable. External cable. All right. So we have Jehovah. God. All right. We have and then we have what is wrong with this guy? Please hold on, guys. Please hold on, please. This one just starts now. All right, and then we have the encode and the decode. And if you look at and if you look at what we have here, you can see the things that the encode carries, right? We have the payload, we have the key, the algorithm, the headers, and so on and so forth. So it's the same thing also happens with this decode. For some reason, my keyboard is not coming up. Sure of that. All right, please, let's just move on, right? Let's just move on, please. I don't want to. I'm on the struggle. The struggle. All right, so let's let's proceed, right? Let's the shift. Not go just shift. The math will just shift and go the way you want it. Okay, so let's proceed, please. Let's proceed without wasting much time again. Okay, so this thing doesn't take us long or much time. All right, so the three things that we need to encode a token is, first of all, we need what we call a secret key. So this secret key is the signature, right? Saying that this to encode things in JWT, right? We need certain things, and one of them is what is secret key. So secret key is basically is usually a very long string or a long number or whatever, something that is very secret to you, because this is what JWT will use this key in collaboration with the algorithm, with some mathematical algorithm to know what to generate those tokens, right? So whatever you do, this key needs to stay secret. But not to worry, once we get to deployment where we need to put everything in place, I'll show you how you can keep this key secret and not shift it to GitHub, right? So basically, you don't want to push this key right to your GitHub, because if your repo is public, right? If your repo is actually public, then it means that someone can actually see that key and somehow and some and somehow get upper hands of decrypting whatever token that your server is sending out. Okay, so whatever you put there should be somehow secret. But for this class, I'll just put some just random basic. Oh my god. I'll put some just any random key there, right? I'll just put any random stuff there, right? And just leave it as it is, right? So that will be my secret key. But then once we get to deployment, like I said, I will show us how we can generate a very long key that someone cannot really guess that key, right? Please don't come and put your nickname there as your secret key. Someone can simply just guess it. Don't come and put Barry there, right? Put something that is very long, something that is difficult to for someone to do what guess, right? Okay, so next thing again that we want is the payload, right? So these are the required things. The payload, right, which is it's usually a dictionary, right? And then there are some special keys, right, that you should not use, right, in this payload, because those special keys means special things to JWT. So keys like exp is a special key to JWT that if you specify exp and give it a value, JWT sees exp as expiration date. It means that the time you want this token to expire, right? So if you are using EXP, know that they are passing in time, but then you can pass in any other thing, right? There are some special keyword that you should not actually use, like EXP. We have lat, we have sub, right, and so on and so forth. But then you can use any other key, right? But then those ones I've just listed out as special to JWT, right? So when using them, JWT expect that you give it a certain kind of data, right? So I will not use EXP. I'll not use EXP. All right. So come here again. So I would maybe I'll come back and I'll use that EXP to tell JWT that this token should expire at so and so time, right? At so and so time. Okay. So let's go back and learn. For now, what I want to just do is I just want to hide user ID, right? So user ID is not a special key for Deloitte, so I can actually use that. And for now, I could just say maybe one, right? And if need be, I can add information if need be. For now, I'll just leave it as it is, right? And then the next thing I need again is the next thing I want again is algorithm, right? So I just come up here and provide algorithm, right? So algorithm are mathematical equations or functions that does some mathematical things and hash things and give you very some random strings that somehow can be decrypted and then get and then the actual information can be revealed. So you don't have to worry about how would you know which algorithm to use, because the thing is that JWT has a list of algorithms, right? I think algorithm, and then JWT has a list of algorithm that is provided. So one of them is HS256, right? Now, if you don't know this algorithm, you could just simply Google it up, right? It's not hidden. So it's they just search for JWT algorithms, right? Algorithms, and then you will see all the available ones that JWT actually support. So HS256 is one of them, and it's one of the most recommended one, right? If you scroll down, you see all of them. So you can see you have the RSA, right? These are the examples there. RS256. We have the ECDSA and so on. So ES256 and so on and so forth. So the one I just used there is hash-based message authentication code, right? HS256. So there it is. All right. So you can choose to go with RS256, you can choose to go with ES256, right, and so on and so forth, right? It's all up to you, right? It's all up to you. For me, I'll go with HS256, right? So this is my secret key, my algorithm, my payload, right? Now I can do what I can encrypt. So the first thing that this man takes is what is payload. All right, is payload. So I could simply just come here and just provide payload. All right, so you could just come here and say payload should be equals to our payload there, right? By default, if you don't do this, then it knows that payload should be payload, right? So next thing again I want is secret key, and next thing it takes is I think key should be equals to our secret key, the one that we have up there. And next thing it takes again is your algorithm. Algorithm should be equals to the algorithm that we listed up there. Okay, so those are the three things that it requires towards for the encoding. And I can assign this to a variable called en. En equals to that, right? So and I could just comment on this man out for now, and I could just print this man out. So after the encoding, let's see what we have. So if I print this man, I should have some random strings. I have some very long random string, but it's not just random because it knows what it did, right? So I'll simply come here and execute this code, and this should give us execute this man. And this one is coming up. All right, so we have it there. We have it. We have it there now. So now this is a token that was generated for us, a very long token. So this is a token that JWT generated for us. So this is it down here. Very long token. So you can see how long it is. You can see how long it is, right? And it's in three parts. It's in three parts. There's a part there's this one part, and there's dot, another part, and another dot, and another part, right? So that's basically how JWT token looks like, and this is what we want to do in our project, right? So we don't want to just give any random token. We want to have a token that we can simply know that it was us that gave it out, right, and not the other way around, right? So now, assuming that the user now gets this, how do we now know that it was all that provided that particular token? So it's simple. You simply do what we simply just encode, right? So simply just the code. So I'll comment this man out, right? And I will call this token. So token is that, and then I'll do what? I'll simply just decode, right? And I'll call this response. Okay. And then at the end of it, or this man takes in this decode takes in three things as well. So the difference is that it takes in token, right? Being the token that we want to provide there. Hold on, let's see something. So it takes in JWT, it takes in the token itself. Yeah, it takes in JWT token, takes in the key, it takes in the algorithm. So those are the things. So the algorithm here comes in a sequence, right? So that's the difference. So please note that when decoding, you have to pass this algorithm as a list, right? When decoding. So I'll come here and I will say JWT token. JWT token is equal to what our token that we have there. And then the key equals our secret key. Remember, the secret key is what we use to encode. So the same key that we use to actually decode, right? And next thing again we want to check again is the algorithm, right? The algorithms it should be in a list, right? It should be in a list, right? So now here I'm passing our algorithm, right? Even if it's just one, right? So just passing in there, and that is basically all. All right, and then if I should close this and then run this again, we should have this man and get our token for us. Okay, so you have to actually print this man out. So you have to print response. All right, response, and we simply come here and then we execute. And then we have our payload. So basically, the decoding will do what? Will simply give you back the information that was saved in that encoding, right? So the payload itself. So you can see that with that, we don't even have to save this token, right? We have nothing to actually worry about. The only thing that we have to simply do was we have to simply remember these two key things, right? The secret key and the algorithm. The payload can always change depending on who is requesting for the login. Please, do we understand that concept before we proceed? Do you understand? Question. We understand. Do you understand? Question. Before we employ this concept directly to our FastAPI project, right? Okay, so the silence means that we completely understand. All right, so I'll copy this man as it is, and I'll take it to our FastAPI, and then we use it where we need to do where we need to actually use it. All right, copy this man, go to dip and sec, and go up here, up, just paste it there. Right. And I was hoping that maybe in this class we somehow have time, but look at how we could have split this project into a bigger files. But not to worry, we'll do that in our next class, or maybe we could schedule for a class before this week runs. I don't really know yet, because so far we will have to start putting our files, our code in separate files, right? So far we've been doing things in one file and it's getting complicated, or it's getting filled up, getting messy. It's getting messy. Okay, so we have that now. Now we want to do what? We want to encode. So where do we want to encode? We want to encode at the login point. So when someone wants to log in, we want to do what? We want to encode that ministry here. Okay, so I'll cut this man out. So this logic still remains, right? This logic of checking if the email actually exists, right? Now if it exists, then fine. Then we can simply do what? We can just simply call this the payload, right? So here we want to remember because we want to generate this string alongside with the user that owns that string, so that when this token is sent back to us, we can simply use it and tell who owns that token, right? And then fetch whatever information that relates to that particular user. Am I making sense? All right. So in this case, the payload here would be right. So that if after we verify that this particular email exists in our database, right? We simply want to do what come here and create the payload. The payload here would be a key. Remember, a key of user email. Okay, user email. Right, and here the value would be what? Data or detail rather, detail dot email. I believe we understand well what we are doing. Please let us understand, please. But if you don't, please, I don't mind going back to re-explain the whole concept again. Okay. All right. So now we have our payload. Now we can encode. So I'll go back again and copy our encoding. So I'll copy this one. I don't even need copy just this one here. Okay. Copy this man and take it to our deep and sec. And here I would simply just say encode this man, right? Encode this man where payload is equals to our payload here and the token here. So here I'll give the token equal to that. All right, so now once we finish doing that, now we can return the token. We don't even need to return this one again because it is not wrapped in that token, right? So we don't even need to return that one again, and we are good to go. So token and the token type, and that is that. Now we can start going back again to do what to verify. Now, if this man I've checked that there is a key called authorization with some random token there, then we simply need to get that token, and then we can we can then use that, get that token, and then start filtering the user that owns that particular token, and then fetch the relevant information that pertains to that particular user, right? So here we'll just come here and then we'll just decode, right? So here I'll go and copy again, go back to our new, copy it for decoding. I'll say here I would say payload equals to this. So I'll copy this one. Go back again to our deep and sec. And then here, what I want to do is put it up here. So I don't even need to check if token is equal to this because already we don't even need, we know the token, right? If there's a problem here, then generally we'll handle that problem, right? So we don't even have to worry ourselves much. Okay, so here we are getting the payload back, right? We are getting the payload back. So the payload is equals to this man. So we take to this token here, what is the token that we get from this dependency here, right? So if it's available, right? So we pass it here, we pass our secret key, we pass our algorithm that we use in encoding at the login point, right? And then from there we can just get our payload. So if our payload was a user email, which in this case I would just simply say so at this point now I could just check. At this point here we could just start to do what to check if information in the payload is available in our database, right? Then we fetch let's see, we fetch it and send it out right? So at this point we just return this one. So I don't even need this one again. Okay, so just cut this one out and return it here. Oh boy, and return it here. Okay, and then just clean this one out. What is wrong with this keyboard? All right, so we don't even want all these ones any longer. We do not want them again. All right, so that's basically that. Okay, so so we assume that there's a logic that does this, and then this is where we send it out if there's a problem, right? But then if there's a problem where getting this man, then of course Jelly will handle it from his end. So it's that simple. Okay, and let's go back and let's since we haven't gotten the database and we can't really do much there. But then maybe we can come back and just use maybe like a dictionary and assume it for what for database. I think that will make sense, abi? So you can come back and just do that. Please don't you can come back and just do that. Please let's go back and but let's test first. Right? Let's test to make sure that what we have so far is working expectedly or as expected rather. Okay, so we refresh our server and then we go to JWT and then I want to get the token. So it means I want to get this token here. So if I come here now, if I send this man, this should show an error because we don't even have that man. So you see internal server error, right? So this should show an error saying that there's a problem and not enough segment, right? So it means that the decoding cannot actually get that. So the token here is wrong, right? It's wrong. We come back and handle that error properly. Okay, so let's go back again. First of all, that means you have to go and get the actual token, right? The actual JWT token. So if I should send login again, so we get our token. So this is the token here. So it means that in order to log in, I have to copy this man and take it to my dashboard. So for every not really my dashboard though, but for every secure route, I have to put that man available, right? And paste this man there, it's a very long token, and then make my request again. So you see that actually went through. So we are heading somewhere, except that we don't really the database is not yet there, but we could maybe we can. I don't know if you guys can just pay like a additional 20 minutes. We could just see how we can work with dictionary as database, right? For just to understand better how this logic here would just work, right? How this logic here would just work. So I don't know, but basically that's basically how we would generate and handle that token generation and token handling using JWT without necessarily saving that token to our database. So please let me know if you guys can just be like 30 minutes or we can just wrap it up here and call it a day. All right, please. Should we? Okay, please. Is that okay? Is that okay with everyone? Let us see how we can use dictionary as database, so we can actually see how this logic here will work out, right? All right, so let's just play like 30 minutes, okay? No, we are done, but let's just play like 30 minutes, please. Okay, so let's go ahead. Now let's go ahead and let's see something. So now remember, in order for someone to actually log in, someone has to somehow have an account, Abby, because we have to actually plug in someone who have an account with us already, right? So now what do you have to do? You have to go back and do what and create user sign up, right? So come back here. Let's go here and let's go user registration. I would say. So this is something that we will likely do in our project phase because most projects will require user registration, basically user management. So you likely do this. So assuming at this point, I want to assume that first name, last name. Okay, maybe we can add it, but at this point, I want to assume that that email should be unique. I think there is a unique listing. So I think Pydantic has a special key called unique. I'm not sure, but let's just see. If it's not there, then we can handle that manually. Good. I'm not sure, but let's see. There's unique. See, it's not there. It's not there. I don't know what's wrong with my keyboard. I think it's going to spoil. All right, so not there, so we don't have to bring it in. But don't worry, we handle that and regardless, we handle that regardless. All right, so now we have first name, or we just say name, so we don't need to waste time again. We have name. Name should be string. So basically, this is what it takes to sign up: name, email, and password. But then when logging in, we need just your password and email. All right. So let's go back and just create the route that handles that should sign up a user. So I'll copy this login route. Why is dashboard having login? This should be login, please. All right. Let's go back and let's see login. Okay, let me just copy this man. Put it down. And let's paste it down here. So here will be register. Right? And then here we are collecting detail about user registration, right? And we will somehow we will use dictionary, right? We use dictionary as database. So what I want to do is I want to go up here and create this dictionary here. So I'll call this DB, right? So DB here will basically represent our database, right? Which is not what we will use in actual life, but for now, let's just use that. All right. So DB here is database. So basically, what we want to do is that we want to why is this thing doing like this? We want to we want to collect these user details, okay, and then save it in that dictionary, right? And then make sure that whatever we are saving, the email does not already exist, right? So basically, the email here would be like the unique key, right? So we don't have to save user with that same email multiple times, right? So let's just see how we can construct that and have it saved. So how do you save things to, or how do you add items to dictionary, right? So we simply say DB, the dictionary name, right? Then in square brackets, the new key. So the new key here would be the email. So data and details, right? Details dot detail dot email, right? That would be the key, and the value here would be basically the name followed by detail dot name, abi dot name, comma, and here will be the password, and then here would just be detail dot password. Okay. All right. So the email is up there, and then every other thing is now like a value, right? Every other thing now is now like a value. Okay. Now what do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? So that's basically all right. But then before we do this, we want to make sure that I want to check that if if uh if um if detail, right, dot email in DB, right? So basically, I want to check that there is no email key, that there is no key that owns that same email in that database, because I don't want to overwrite that information there, right? So I check if email in database. What is wrong with my keyboard? Crying out loud. All right, and then after that, basically what you want to do again is you want to make sure you want to raise, right, HTTP exceptions, saying that maybe we could have a status code of just find any code and put there, or let's just use status, or just find any code and put there. I could just say maybe 404, or I'll just go with 404. 404 is the wrong code for this kind of situation, but we just have to go with it. I can't think of a code right now. Okay, so this detail here will be an email with account with that email already exists, right? Account with that email already exists. Okay, and then else we simply just want to do the else here. Else we just want to ship this man in. So we add it there, and then at the end of it, or remember, I could now after I can now return, right? I can now return. So if need be, I can bring in our response model here, so that whatever we are sending as we are sending. So let's just implement that. So I think since we already covered that, let's just implement it then. We just use a rake out. So I call this rake out, right? And this will be inherited from base model. And the only thing I want to send back again, the only thing I want to send out again is name, and name is gonna be string, and I want to send out email. Email here is going to be what? Email string, right? And maybe I could send out status also. status is gonna be what, a string as well. Right, so that's the only thing that I'm sending out, right? And I can come here now and I can add this as a response model, right? Response model. So whatever is going out matches that. So I'm just trying to make this whole stuff looks a little bit wonderful. Rec out, right? So far, if you look at what we are sending out, we want to send out detail, right? You want to send out detail, right? But then this detail is missing. Status, so there will be a problem. So after adding to the database, which is what we've just done here, we want to send out that detail, right? We want to send out that detail, okay? And but our detail here is missing status. So we want what we want to do is, before even sending this out, let's go ahead and let's add status. So I will say detail dot status equals to what? Success. I believe you understand what I just did there, right? So basically, I'm adding a new key to that detail, right? To that detail. So I'm adding a new attribute to that detail, being what? Being status, and the value is what is success. So if not, we are gonna try an error because this one is what is missing, and there's no status there, right? So that is why we did that. So please confirm that we understand that we understand that particular concept, please. I believe you understand, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, please let's follow up together. Okay, so now we have that. I think we're almost done. So I'll call this register, and okay. Right, so now let's go back to login. Let's touch that login one more time. So login here checks if this man already exists. So let's come and write that code there. So I'll check. Here I will check. So if detail dot email. So basically, I'm checking if that email that you just sent in your login is in DB, right? Our dictionary there, up there. Then I want to basically do all these things, right? I want to basically do all these things. But if it's not there, else, if it's not there, then I want to raise HTTP exception again. So raise HTTP exception. Please, I'll still use that 404. Can't think of a code right now. So 404, and the detail is going to be no account with that email. All right. Okay. Okay, so what again? So I think we are almost done. So let's just test out these small changes that we've done so far. So I'll refresh my server. Okay, and then I'll go back again and let's test it out. So if I try to log in, let's go to login again. Let's go to login. And so let's try to send this again. So this should tell me there is no email. Okay, so that's working just fine because actually we've not just signed up, right? So that is what we actually want. So let's go back and let's sign up. So I'll copy this man. I'll copy that man. So he's beginning to make a lot of sense, right? It's beginning to make a lot of sense. So I'll paste this here. This here will be register. I believe it was register that we did. Let me confirm that, please. Register. Right, I believe, but yeah, register. There it is. All right, so let's go and register. Okay, so register here would give us go to body. Here, this should be post. Go to body, go to raw, and let's fill in register. So register says, oh sorry, it said that we need. What is wrong with my keyboard? Oh God. Oh Jesus Christ. Okay, please hold on, guys. I will just start this keyboard. this keyboard I can't even play. All right. So, so we have name, okay, and then the name is we just say a test user, right? Test. Oh my God, how? Jesus. Frustration, no person. Okay, so let's Jesus. I feel like shouting. Jesus. I cannot shout. Please, Oh my, okay, hold on. Let me go and sit down and type it somewhere else. Ah, oh. Okay. This thing just they start this early morning. What's in life? And the name here is we're just gonna have call it test user, right? And we're gonna have email. Ah, Jesus Christ. Ah. Maybe you guys can go and test on your end, though, please. This thing is getting me. You guys can just go and test it on your end, but I think uh God. All right, Choma, your one is up. Please, maybe you guys can just test on your end and see it. Okay. Choma, your one, please go ahead and speak here.
I want to ask concerning what you said we should test on our end. That details
Okay.
dot status will work because
Yes.
status
Yes.
is now among what is coming in. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah,
coming
yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, status is not among what is coming in, but then what is going out is not among them, right? And so what we are do is that we
Okay.
simply just add. What we are doing down here, just we are adding it now. You are saying, okay, add status, and the value should now
Like
be God.
if you watch status is colored white, simply telling you that it might throw an error. It's not better to call an instance of the reg art class. I don't know. I don't know if there's another better way to do it because I don't know. I just feel like that status will not work.
Let's see. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, the status is showing white. Okay, so for some reason it's showing white because I think it's not big. It's because it's not even there, right? It's because it's not there, but because we've assigned this value, this assignment sign is there, right? So it will add it as a new, as an item to that group of information that is leaving the register URL, right? So basically that it should work, right? It should work, right? But if it doesn't work, just let us know on the group because right now I want to end this class because this man is not just working. Someone saying that that is my endement in the misbehave. Right, so I think that has stopped. Okay, no, it has not. All right, so can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, so like I was saying, all right, so basically what you want to do is you create well, no great too. You will create let's say a file called my secret file dot py, right? Assuming my secret file dot py, and then you create a variable in that file called secret key, and then put your secret key there in that file. And then if you want to use that secret key somewhere in the FastAPI project, you do what? Simply import it into your FastAPI file, right? And then you use it. Do you understand up to that point?
Yes,
Please,
sir.
can you come again?
Okay, let's say you create a folder, right, called tax1, right? Which tax1 will somehow hold a file called main.py, right? And that main.py now will now be like your first API file, right? Abi? Abi together.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me? Wonderful.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, all right. So now once you create that folder, right, and then you have a file there called main.py, and then inside that folder. Now that folder is will now hold a file called main.py, which is like your fast API and script, right? That's where your fast API script will stay. Now in that fast API script, if you want to encode a token, which requires you to have a secret key
in that sequence, what you do is come outside, all right, create another file called my secret file .py, and then in that my secret file .py, you create another, you create a variable inside that file called secret key, and then you put your secret key there, right? And then you go back to main.py and you import that secret key to main.py, and then from there you extract my secret key and use it as what as your secret key in main.py. Do you understand up to that point?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now after you've done that, now what you want to do again is create another third file. This other third file, you call it .git ignore, right? And then in that .git ignore file, open that file and then you type in my secret file. That's a file that holds your secret key. Just type in that file name there alongside with the file extension. So if it's my secret key.py, you type in my secret key.py in that .git ignore. That it means that that when you want to push that repo, that folder to GitHub, that only main and only main.py and git ignore should be pushed. So that secret key would be ignored by Git. So what people will see, what people will see in your GitHub repo would definitely be just the impression of of your secret key file, but they don't really see what the actual file or the actual content of that file. Am I making sense?
Yes, sir. I get the point.
All right, so that's basically what you can do for now. But once we get to deployment, I'll show you a better way of doing it, right? I'll show you a better way of doing it. But for now, you can just do that. Or for now, you just put any random listing that is not valuable, right? Just put any random one and just put it there. Just push it. If it's going to cause you guys stress, just put any random stuff down, push. To whenever we uh, to whenever you to whenever we actually finish with deployment, then you guys can see how that works. All right. So we will leave it there for today's class. Let's not go far again. We've taken our 24 minutes of our time and added there. Okay, so let's not go far again. So we'll leave it there, and when we come again, if need be, maybe I don't know. The thing is that we are having tax. That it's just about 4 tax. So I dropped one, so I say just 4. So right, so you can just it's a very simple tax. It's just similar to what we did in our previous tax. Just that this time around we have added authentication, right? I've added security. So there's some routes that needs to be secured. So what you could just do, you just go and clone your previous project, clone it and edit it and add security and push it back again. In fact, in 1 hour it should be done, right? In an hour time, you all should be done in 1 hour time. All right, Osanto, your hand is up. You have a question?
I've answered my question. I was about to ask about the task, whether we should just update the old task and now submit the same link, but you said we should copy it to answer the question.
No. You clone it and then create a new repository. And you submit it in a new repository, right? Not that other one.
Okay, sir.
So you can just clone it, and then when you clone it, right? Okay, think that once you clone, I believe you guys know how to clone, right? Just do git clone, and then you put the this repo link there, right?
I've not tried it before. We'll use this task to learn it, sir.
All right, so just Google how to clone, right? It's a very simple command. Git is git clone, and then you press that this repo link and click. So basically, clone means download everything that is in that online repo and bring it down and to this new file, right? That's basically what will happen. But the thing is that once you clone, it will clone with that this repo link. Or to save you guys the stress, just create a new folder, just copy the file and put there and edit it. Don't even stress yourself much. This is just doing shall I just do anyhow, right? Shall I just do anyhow? But shall I submit a new repo link? All right, so I think that's all now. That's okay. Yeah. Barry, I will check your listing now. Right, I'll check your listing now. All right, so that is all. So I'll see you guys. In our next session. If there will be need to hold another session before the week runs out, I will always update us in the group. All right. So please have a fantastic day and see you guys some other time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.